The prison lights went out at exactly 2:13 a.m. For 3 long seconds, Blackwater State Prison became completely dark. No voices. No footsteps. No sound except the cold rain hitting the metal roof high above the cells. Then the screaming started. "Cell 14 is open." Guards rushed down the hallway with flashlights shaking in their hands. The steel doors slammed open one after another as alarms exploded through the prison. Red lights flashed across the concrete walls. Officer Ray Bennett stopped in front of cell 14 and froze. The bed was empty. The toilet was empty. The tiny window near the ceiling was still covered with rusted bars. "There's no way out," one guard whispered. But the prisoner inside cell 14 was supposed to be the most dangerous inmate in the entire prison. Ethan Cole. A man who had once escaped 2 different county jails. A man who never talked. A man who always smiled during lockdowns like he knew something nobody else did. Ray slowly stepped closer to the dark corner of the cell. His flashlight trembled across the cracked floor. Nothing. The room looked empty. Then came the sound. Fratch, fratch, fratch. Ray stopped breathing. The noise came from under the bed. One of the younger guards lifted his shotgun. "Who's there?" No answer. Only scratching. Slowly, Ray bent down and aimed the flashlight beneath the bed. At first, he saw only darkness. Then he saw an eye staring back at him. The guard jumped backward in terror. Because Ethan Cole was not escaping. He was hiding. And in his hand was something covered in blood. Then Ethan smiled. And the prison lights suddenly shut off again. 3 months earlier, Blackwater State Prison sat in the middle of nowhere surrounded by forests and fences topped with razor wire. Rain fell almost every day there. The prison smelled like wet concrete, old metal, and fear. New guards hated working the night shift. Old guards said the prison changed people. Officer Ray Bennett had worked there for 11 years. He had seen fights, riots, and even escape attempts. But nothing scared him more than prisoners who stayed quiet. That was why Ethan Cole bothered him so much. Ethan arrived on a gray Monday morning in handcuffs and ankle chains. 2 police trucks escorted him through the prison gates. Nobody spoke while he walked inside. The chains rattled softly with every step. Ray watched from the security desk as Ethan looked around the prison slowly, almost calmly, like he had been there before. Warden Brooks handed Ray a thick file. "Keep an eye on this one," the warden said quietly. Ray opened the file. Armed robbery. Kidnapping. 3 prison assaults. Escape history. But one thing stood out more than anything else. Every violent event connected to Ethan happened after strange power failures. Ray looked up. "You think he plans them?" The warden rubbed his tired eyes. "I think bad things happen when that man disappears from sight." Ethan was placed in cell 14 at the far end of Block C, the oldest section of Blackwater Prison. Most prisoners hated Block C. Pipes leaked there. The walls made strange noises at night. Some cells still had scratch marks from inmates locked there years ago. But Ethan never complained. Every morning he made his bed perfectly. Every afternoon he read old books from the prison library. Every night he sat silently on his bunk staring at the hallway lights. Watching. Waiting. The other prisoners feared him almost immediately. One inmate named Marcus tried speaking to Ethan during lunch. "What did you do to end up here?" Marcus asked. Ethan smiled slightly. "Wrong place. Wrong night." Marcus laughed nervously. "That all?" Ethan leaned closer. "That depends how much you want to know." Marcus stopped talking after that. A week later, strange things started happening inside Block C. Lights flickered during count time. Cell doors jammed for no reason. One guard swore he heard digging sounds inside the walls after midnight. Then inmates started reporting whispers during lights out. Some blamed Ethan. Others stayed silent because they were too scared to even say his name. Ray tried to ignore it all. Until one rainy evening when he walked past cell 14 and noticed something strange. Ethan was asleep on his bunk. But muddy footprints covered the floor of the cell. Fresh muddy footprints. As if someone had just walked in from outside the prison. Ray stared at them in horror. Then Ethan slowly opened his eyes. And smiled. Ray Bennett could not stop thinking about the muddy footprints. The prison was locked down that night because of heavy rain. Nobody had gone outside except the tower guards. And even if someone had, there was no way they could enter cell 14 without opening 2 locked gates first. But the footprints were there. Fresh. Wet. Real. Ray stood outside the bars while Ethan sat calmly on his bunk. "Where did those come from?" Ray asked. Ethan looked down at the muddy marks on the floor like he was seeing them for the first time. "That's strange," he said softly. Ray felt anger rise in his chest. "Don't play games with me." Ethan tilted his head. "Officer Bennett, do you ever get the feeling something is wrong with this prison?" Ray ignored the question. He unlocked the cell and stepped inside carefully. The muddy footprints crossed the floor and stopped near the back wall beside the toilet. Then they simply ended. No return prints. No hidden hole. Nothing. Ray pressed his hand against the concrete wall. Solid. Still, something about the room felt cold. Too cold. "You searching for ghosts now?" Ethan asked quietly. Ray turned toward him sharply. "You think this is funny?" Ethan's smile faded. "No," he whispered. "I think somebody here is going to die." A loud buzz suddenly echoed through the hallway. "Count time." Ray backed out of the cell and locked the bars. As he walked away, he heard Ethan's calm voice behind him. "Watch the lights tonight." That sentence stayed in Ray's head for hours. The storm outside grew worse after midnight. Rain hammered the roof while thunder shook the prison walls. Most inmates were asleep, but tension filled Block C like smoke. At 1:07 a.m., the lights flickered once. At 1:09, they flickered again. The guards exchanged nervous looks. Then the power died completely. Darkness swallowed the prison. The emergency alarms failed to start. For 5 terrifying seconds, there was only silence. Then came the sound of metal banging somewhere deep inside Block C. "Flashlights!" Sergeant Lewis shouted. Guards rushed through the hallway beams cutting through the darkness. Prisoners yelled from inside their cells. "What's happening? Turn the lights back on." Ray ran straight toward cell 14. His stomach twisted the closer he got. When he arrived, Ethan was standing at the bars waiting calmly. "You're still here," Ray said, almost surprised. Ethan smiled slightly. "You sound disappointed." Before Ray could answer, another guard yelled from farther down the hallway. "Cell 22 is open." Ray sprinted toward the voice. The door to cell 22 hung halfway open. Inside, inmate Darren Pike sat trembling in the corner with blood running down his nose. "What happened?" Ray demanded. Darren pointed into the darkness with shaking hands. "He was here." "Who?" "The man from cell 14. Ray's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I saw him." Darren screamed. "The lights went out and he was standing right there beside my bed." Ray looked around the cell carefully. No sign of Ethan. No broken bars. No escape tunnel. But there was something else. Wet mud on the floor. Again. The emergency lights finally flickered back on, bathing the hallway in dim red light. Ray rushed back to cell 14. Ethan sat quietly on his bunk reading a book. Like he had never moved. Ray grabbed the bars hard. "How did you do it?" Ethan slowly closed the book. "Do what?" "You were seen in another cell." Ethan stared at him for a long moment. Then he said something that made Ray's skin crawl. "Maybe Darren saw the wrong man." The next morning, rumors spread through the prison faster than fire. Some inmates claimed Ethan could move through the walls. Others said Block C had secret tunnels built decades ago. One prisoner even swore he heard another voice speaking inside Ethan's cell late at night. Not Ethan's voice. Someone else's. Warden Brooks called an emergency meeting in his office. "No more mistakes," he snapped. "I want guards outside cell 14 every second of the night." Ray nodded, but something still bothered him. "If Ethan's involved," Ray said slowly, "why does he always stay in his cell after the power cuts?" Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. That evening, Ray skipped dinner and searched old prison records in the basement archive room. Dust covered everything. Most files were older than he was. Then he found something strange. A map of Block C from 40 years ago. Ray spread the paper across the desk. His eyes widened. There was an old maintenance tunnel marked directly beneath Cell 14. A tunnel nobody had mentioned in years. Suddenly, the basement lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the power went out again. Ray froze in complete darkness. And from somewhere deep beneath the floor, he heard footsteps coming toward him. Ray Bennett stood completely still in the dark basement. The footsteps beneath the floor grew louder. Thep, thep, thep. Cold sweat rolled down his neck as he gripped his flashlight tightly. The old prison archive room smelled like dust, wet pipes, and mold. Somewhere water dripped slowly in the darkness. Then the footsteps stopped. Right under him. Ray's breathing became shallow. For 1 second, he almost convinced himself it was just old pipes making noise. Then he heard a low scraping sound beneath the concrete floor. Someone was down there. The emergency lights flickered back on, covering the basement in dim red light. Ray quickly grabbed the old prison map and backed toward the door. His heart pounded hard in his chest. The maintenance tunnel. It had to be real. And somehow it connected to Cell 14. Ray rushed upstairs 2 steps at a time. By the time he reached Block C, 2 guards were already standing outside Ethan Cole's cell. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. Ethan sat calmly on his bunk reading the same old book. Ray walked straight to the bars. "What's under your cell?" he demanded. Ethan slowly looked up from the pages. "A floor," he answered quietly. Ray slammed the bars angrily. "I found the tunnel map." For the first time in weeks, Ethan's smile disappeared completely. The silence between them felt heavy. Then Ethan stood up slowly and walked toward the bars. "You should stop digging into old secrets," he whispered. "Why?" "Because Blackwater Prison buries people." Ray stared hard at him. "Who's in the tunnel?" Ethan's eyes shifted slightly toward the hallway cameras. Then back to Ray. "You're asking the wrong question." Before Ray could respond, a loud crash echoed from the far end of Block C. Guards turned instantly. An inmate was screaming. Ray and the others rushed down the hallway toward Cell 31. Prisoner Tyler Grant stood against the bars, pointing inside his cell with terror on his face. "There's somebody in there." The guards aimed flashlights through the bars. "Nobody. Only Tyler's shaking bunk bed and scattered blankets." "He was under my bed," Tyler cried. "I saw him crawling." Ray's stomach tightened immediately. Under the bed. Just like the night Ethan had hidden. One guard unlocked the cell carefully while another kept a weapon raised. Ray stepped inside first. The room looked empty. Then he noticed mud smeared across the floor beside the wall. Fresh mud. Again. Tyler pointed at the ground with trembling hands. "He came from there." Ray knelt beside the wall. At first, it looked solid. Then he spotted a thin crack hidden behind the bed frame. His pulse jumped. "Move the bed," he ordered. The guards shoved the heavy metal bed aside. Behind it was a rusted square opening barely large enough for a person to crawl through. A hidden tunnel entrance. The entire hallway fell silent. "How long has that been there?" one guard whispered. Ray shined his flashlight into the dark hole. The tunnel stretched deep underground beneath the prison. And somewhere far inside it, he heard movement. Not rats. Footsteps. Running footsteps. "Seal the block now!" Ray shouted. Alarms rang through the prison again as guards rushed to lock every section down. Prisoners yelled from their cells while officers searched every hallway. But the tunnel remained dark. Too dark. Ray grabbed a radio. "Get me the warden." Minutes later, Warden Brooks arrived looking pale and furious. "You found it," he muttered. Ray turned sharply. "You knew about this." The warden stayed silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "It was built during the prison riots back in the 70s, Brooks admitted. Maintenance workers used it to move supplies during emergencies." Ray stared at him in disbelief. "Why wasn't it sealed?" "It was supposed to be." A terrible thought suddenly hit Ray. How many entrances are there? The warden's face went white. Before he could answer, the prison lights shut off again. Complete darkness swallowed Block C. Inmates screamed. Metal doors rattled violently. Then came a sound that made every guard freeze. A prison cell door slowly creaking open. Not electronically. By hand. Ray switched on his flashlight and aimed it down the hallway. Cell 14 stood open. Empty. Ethan Cole was gone. Then a voice echoed softly through the darkness. Officer Bennett. Ray turned toward the sound. But there was nobody there. Then another voice whispered from behind him. He's not alone. Ray Bennett spun around with his flashlight raised. The hallway behind him was empty. But the whisper still echoed in his ears. He's not alone. The emergency lights flickered weakly, turning Block C red like the inside of a nightmare. Prisoners shouted from their cells while guards searched every corner with shaking hands. Ethan Cole had vanished. Ray grabbed his radio. All units report in. Lock every exit now. Static crackled back at him. No signal. The radios were dead. Warden Brooks looked terrified. The tunnel system reaches the old boiler room, he said quickly. If Ethan gets there, he could reach the outer fence. Then move. Ray shouted. 4 guards followed him toward the stairwell leading underground. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Rust covered the walls. Pipes rattled overhead. The smell down there was awful. Wet dirt. Rotten water. Something else too. Something metallic. Blood. Officer Daniels aimed his flashlight ahead. I hate this place. Nobody answered. The tunnel split into 2 narrow paths. Muddy footprints covered the ground. Fresh footprints. Ray crouched beside them. There are 2 people, he whispered. One set of footprints was large. The other smaller. Someone really was helping Ethan. Far ahead, metal clanged loudly. Move! Ray yelled. The guards rushed deeper into the tunnel. Their boots splashed through shallow puddles while water dripped from broken pipes above them. Then they found the first body. Officer Daniels suddenly stopped so fast that Ray nearly crashed into him. Oh my God! A prison guard lay against the tunnel wall unconscious with blood running from a cut above his eye. His flashlight still flickered beside him. Ray knelt quickly. He's alive, he said with relief. The injured guard grabbed Ray's sleeve weakly. There were 2 of them, he whispered painfully. One distracted me, the other took my keys. Did you see Ethan? The guard nodded slowly. But the second man, his voice shook. I thought he was dead. Before Ray could ask another question, a loud explosion echoed somewhere above the tunnels. The entire prison shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. What was that? Daniels shouted. Ray's face tightened. The boiler room. They ran faster now. Sirens screamed faintly through the prison overhead. Smoke drifted through parts of the tunnel ahead. When they finally reached the boiler room door, it hung slightly open. Ray motioned for silence. The guards raised their weapons carefully. Then Ray pushed the door open. The room was massive and dark. Giant machines surrounded the walls while steam hissed loudly from broken pipes. At first, nobody moved. Then a shadow stepped out slowly from behind one of the boilers. Ethan Cole. His prison uniform was dirty with mud. One hand held stolen prison keys. The other held a small flashlight. Stop right there! Ray shouted. Ethan calmly raised both hands. You're too late, he said quietly. Where's your partner? Ethan smiled faintly. You still don't understand what's happening here. Daniels moved closer with handcuffs ready. That was when another voice suddenly echoed through the boiler room. Don't! Everyone froze. A second man stepped out from the darkness behind Daniels. The guard gasped. It was inmate Samuel Vance. But that was impossible. Samuel Vance had officially died inside Blackwater Prison 6 years earlier. Ray remembered the story clearly. Murderer. Violent inmate. Declared dead after a prison fire in Block C. Yet there he stood alive, older, thinner, and covered in dirt. The guards stared in horror. Samuel smiled weakly. They buried the truth down here. Warden Brooks suddenly appeared in the doorway behind them. The moment he saw Samuel, all color drained from his face. "No," Brooks whispered. Samuel's eyes burned with anger. "You told everyone I died in that fire." Brooks backed away slowly. "You were never supposed to escape the tunnel." Ray looked between them in shock. "What is he talking about?" Samuel stepped forward carefully. 6 years ago, there was no accident," he said. "The fire was started to hide something." Brooks shook his head wildly. "Don't listen to him." But Samuel pointed directly at the warden. "He locked us underground." The room fell silent except for the hiss of steam. "There were 4 inmates trapped in the tunnels during the fire," Samuel continued. 3 died. Ray stared at Brooks in disbelief. "You left them down here?" Brooks' hands trembled. "I was protecting this prison." "No," Samuel snapped angrily. "You were protecting yourself." Suddenly, a loud alarm exploded through the boiler room. Then the emergency generator failed. Darkness swallowed everyone again. And somewhere in the blackness, a gunshot rang out. The gunshot exploded through the darkness of the boiler room. Everyone dropped to the ground. Ray Bennett slammed into the cold concrete floor as steam hissed loudly around him. Guards shouted in panic while flashlights rolled across the room. Then someone screamed, "Warden Brooks is hit!" The emergency lights flickered weakly back on. Warden Brooks lay beside the doorway, clutching his shoulder. Blood stained his uniform, but he was still alive. Officer Daniels quickly kicked a handgun across the floor. Samuel Vance stood frozen nearby, breathing hard. "I didn't mean to shoot him," Samuel said shakily. The gun went off. Ethan Cole remained perfectly calm in the middle of the room. Ray slowly stood up and pointed his flashlight at Ethan. "This ends now." Ethan looked around at everyone quietly. Then he nodded. "You're right," he said. For the first time since arriving at Blackwater Prison, Ethan looked tired instead of dangerous. Samuel lowered his head. "We never wanted anybody dead." Ray frowned. "Then why all this? The blackouts? The tunnels? Scaring prisoners?" Samuel looked at the floor. "Because nobody would listen otherwise." The boiler room became silent except for the sound of dripping water. Then Ethan finally told the truth. 6 years earlier, Samuel Vance and 3 other inmates had been working in the old tunnels during a prison repair project. A fire suddenly broke out in Block C after faulty wiring exploded. The smoke spread fast underground. Samuel and the others became trapped. They screamed for help through the tunnels. But according to Samuel, Warden Brooks never opened the emergency doors.
Why?
Because inspectors were already investigating the prison for illegal construction work and missing prison funds. Brooks feared the hidden tunnels would expose years of corruption and shut the prison down. So he sealed the tunnel exits and left the inmates underground. 3 prisoners died from smoke and burns. But Samuel survived. Barely. He escaped deeper into the abandoned tunnels where nobody found him. 4 years, he secretly lived beneath the prison, stealing food during blackouts and hiding whenever guards searched the area. Then months earlier, Ethan Cole arrived at Blackwater. Ethan discovered Samuel after hearing noises beneath cell 14. Instead of turning him in, Ethan listened to his story. And together, they planned to expose the truth. "That's why the power kept going out," Ray realized slowly. Ethan nodded. "We needed guards to search the tunnels." Ray stared at him carefully. "You could have killed people." Ethan's face hardened slightly. "We never touched inmates. Never attacked guards unless we had to escape." Officer Daniels crossed his arms angrily. "You still caused panic in the whole prison." Samuel looked ashamed. "I know." Warden Brooks groaned painfully from the floor. 2 guards held him still while medics rushed downstairs. Ray looked at the wounded warden. "Is it true?" he asked. Brooks closed his eyes tightly. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then the warden finally whispered, "Yes." The room went completely still. "I was scared," Brooks admitted weakly. "If the inspectors found those tunnels, everything would have been over. "You left men to die," Ray said coldly. Brooks began crying quietly. Samuel stared at him with years of anger in his eyes, but he did not move closer. He simply looked tired. Very tired. Police arrived at Blackwater Prison before sunrise. State investigators entered the tunnels with cameras and search teams. By morning, the hidden underground system became national news. Reporters crowded outside the prison gates. Warden Brooks was arrested from his hospital bed later that afternoon. The state opened investigations into Blackwater Prison and several former staff members connected to the cover-up. Samuel Vance was taken into protective custody. Because of what happened years earlier, his case was reopened. And Ethan Cole? Nobody knew what to think about him. Some guards still believed he was dangerous. Others believed he had exposed a terrible secret nobody else would have uncovered. 3 weeks later, Ray Bennett stood outside cell 14-1 last time. The prison was quieter now. The tunnel entrance behind the wall had finally been sealed with concrete. Ethan sat calmly on his bunk reading his old book again. Ray looked at him carefully. "You could have escaped during the blackout," Ray said. Ethan slowly closed the book. "I know." "Then why didn't you?" For the first time ever, Ethan smiled without looking dangerous. "Because sometimes the truth is a better escape." Ray stood there silently for a moment. Then he walked away down the long hallway of Block C while the heavy prison doors slammed shut behind him. And for the first time in years, the lights inside Blackwater Prison stayed on.